Welcome, friends. It's great to see all of you. And I can't think of a more important topic than to talk about our behavior right now. And for the next 30 minutes, I hope you're really dialed in. I hope you have your notes because I'm going to let it rip about the importance of our behavior. And it's your behavior, everybody, that drives your success. On average, throughout any given day, we make about 35,000 decisions. That's a lot of decisions. So it's really up to us, the choices that we make day in and day out that are reflecting our results. I mean, you can have all the right skill in the world. You can learn all the right skill. We've been learning some amazing things today for sure. And you can certainly focus on your mindset and having the right attitude and the right beliefs and eliminating head trash, all good. But unless we put ourselves in the seat of action, of making the right choices at the right time and putting ourselves in a place to win, forget all the other sides of the triangle. And so I want you to think about three things, right? It's our behavior that drives success. And underneath behavior is three things: goals, plans, and actions. And less than 2% of the population set goals. Today's not a goals talk, but it's a reminder for all of us to think about, especially at this time of the year, Q4, my goals, my personal and professional goals. Did I achieve this year the things that I set out to do for myself? For leaders on the call, did my people achieve what it is that we agreed to achieve at the beginning of the year along the way? Do I have goals in place in 2026? If you haven't had the opportunity to really think about your personal and professional goals today, this is the invitation. The time is now. I guess this is the 2% of the population represented on this call, right? But the stronger that you can make the link between your goals and your plans and your activity, the better. And I think the biggest part about this is that we're missing that link between goals and action. You know, I'm from Boston, and so it makes me think of another very famous Boston author in the Wayback Machine, Henry David Thoreau. You might have heard of him. And he says that it's not enough to be busy, even the answer busy. The question is, busy doing what? So if you're taking notes today, the one word I want you to write on your notebook is busy, and then cross it out, because who cares? We could be busy doing a lot of different things, but I'm guessing the things that we're doing right now, and only you can answer this, are things that are probably not putting us in a place to win. And today's examination of our behavior should leave you with some thoughts about, what can I do now the next 4 or 5 weeks before the end of the year? Because let's face it, you only have 4 or 5 weeks left. There's tons of distractions, a lot going on in Q4 to plant seeds for 2026. But more importantly, how do I set myself up in 2026 to win? And leaders, this is your place on the call to add a lot of value. You know, I think the number one reason why people leave organizations is because my leader didn't add any value. And guess what? Your ability, leaders and individuals on this call, to connect what it is that you're doing every day to your goals, ultimately to your results, is where it's at. So let's talk about some things. How real is your pipeline? That's a question. I want you to ask yourself, how real is my pipeline? Is my pipeline full of things that are really, frankly, unqualified? Is it full of things that I haven't really fully understood if they're even going to close, but they told me that they needed a quote, or they told me they needed an RFP, or they told me they needed something. But, you know, now that I think about it, Charlie was on vacation and Joanne really didn't get back to me. I have a feeling there's probably some things right now that are in the pipeline that frankly shouldn't be there. And too many of us confuse activity with progress. That's a hot take. Too many of us confuse activity with progress. I think that's what Thoreau meant when he talked about busy, that we're busy doing a lot of things, thinking that that's leading somewhere, but it's really not. You know, how does that show up in our personal life? Maybe you found yourself doing this over time, but I think a lot of people go to the gym. I use a lot of fitness analogies, right? Those of you that know me on the call know that I do, because there's such a link between sales and physical activity. But maybe you found yourself going to the gym, or you know people like this that go to the gym, They think that, walking around, lifting a few weights, running on the treadmill for a few minutes, maybe they find their way to a protein shake and they leave and they go, wow, yeah, I did some stuff. I made some progress in their mind. But 3, 4, 5 months of doing that, and they say to themselves, but why am I not fitting better in my jeans? Why am I not? I wanted to build muscle in my arms and I don't really see any definition. Well, it's because we're just doing a bunch of random stuff. And I would argue that going to the gym and doing a bunch of random stuff is a waste of time. And it really is, right? Because why am I going? If I'm going to go there, it's probably more effective to have a plan, to have a goal, and to have some strategy behind what it is that I'm really there to do. Maybe for me, it's lifting a certain amount of weights in a certain amount of regimen. Maybe for others, it's doing something else, right? And it's a holistic view about what I'm there to do, not so much to go there and do a bunch of activity. And we can't activity our way to results. And maybe there's some things that you're doing right now, like going to a lot of networking events. I hear this from everybody. Haley, I went to a bunch of networking events. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, whatever. But ultimately, when they go to those events, they're talking to people that they know, or they are out just doing stuff. They're playing in a lot of golf tournaments. Don't get me started. And then they realize that nothing's happened, right? Because they're just out there doing activity, but there's really no strategy behind what it is that I'm there to do. So here's something to think about. A full pipeline does not mean that it's a healthy pipeline. More RFPs does not mean that we're going to win more business. And you know how I feel about RFPs. So the real test is, are we moving the right accounts forward? And am I behaving in a manner that's putting myself in a place to be successful? And this is the place where I think all three of those things, right? Planning, activity, and goals sync up. So let's talk about how we segment to win and create focus that ultimately creates lasting results. Now, chasing everyone is winning no one. And you know that we're all here, we're on the road less traveled. And the road less traveled is chasing few and winning more, right? Chasing few but winning more, disqualifying harder up front to win things down the road easier, not having an easier time up front, but then guess what, having a much harder time later on, right? And segmenting ourselves and our behavior in such a way that we aren't spread thin and lose deals, right? And that we create a system for ourselves and for our people that we can have some strategy and better understand what it takes to be successful. I ask a lot of people and leaders, try this one out. And for those of you, no matter what your title, ask yourself this question: how do I know I had a successful day in sales? Just ask yourself that question, or ask your team that question. You'd be amazed at what comes out on the other side. It's a lot of this and that, really. It's not a clear, if I do these 3, 4, 5 behaviors, I know that I've had a successful day in sales. So I want you to give that some thought. How do I know that I've had a successful day in sales? How do I know that I've had a successful day as a leader in our efforts to win more business, have more results, make more money, drive revenue, right? Whatever that is. So I want us to really, really think about being focused. And there's 4 key areas we're going to talk about today. And you've heard this model, but maybe there's some new thinking as it relates to how we segment our time. And I would recommend that if you're thinking about new ways to think about your pipeline, your Monday morning sales meetings, your huddles, your whatever, is that this is the way you segment your accounts as an organization and as an individual. Is what am I doing behaviorally and from an account perspective in these 4 areas, right? And keep protecting and defending. When you think of keep, I want you to think of protect and defend, that we're maintaining. We'll get into each of these 4 categories here in a second. Attain is winning new business. I don't hear enough of winning new business. I work with a lot of different types of companies in a lot of different industries. And you know what? They all tell me, and maybe you can relate, we've relied too much on existing business. We've relied too much on the phone to proverbially ring, that we don't have a proactive strategy to go out and develop new business, new logos, new accounts, new things, right? So attain, acquire, that's the A. Recapture, it's my favorite category. It's like the lost art of this group because it's all about rebuilding and reconnecting and revitalizing and renewing relationships that we either had in the past that we forgot about, maybe that somebody else on the team had in their account list, but that now we've reshuffled. So the R can be a lot of different words. If you don't like recapture, then think about renew, reshuffle, reconnect, revitalize, and then expand. Expand. Wow, is there so much here in the expand bucket, growing our existing accounts. I was with a client this morning and I asked them, I already knew the answer, and so did they, right? Is your current accounts of all your current clients, are they buying everything that you sell? Just at a basic level, like, are all your current clients buying everything that you sell? And of course the answer was no, they aren't. So my question is then, what's our strategy to proactively, again, that word proactively, grow, expand our existing relationships? And there's so much to say about that. So let's dive into K, keep, protecting the base. Now, we know that competition is knocking on our door. And your people, you are facing that every single day, right? Our competition is trying to figure out what we're doing and trying to get into all of our existing accounts and relationships, and they're chipping away. So if we don't stay sharp, we don't stay on top of what we need to stay on top of, we don't proactively plant seeds about the future and our current fears or future fears, we could be facing a loss to competition in the future. So here's one strategy. Keep isn't just simply like, hey, I've got 5, 10, 20, sometimes more accounts, and yeah, they're all happy. Keep is also, what's my current strategy to plant seeds about challenges that are either facing us now or could be facing us in the future? Just ask your people that question, leaders. What's your strategy to protect against the competition? What's your strategy to defend against renewals that may not happen if we haven't planted some seeds about those issues? Right? Companies are facing price pressure. Companies are facing pressure to limit their partners. Competitions they're facing all these kinds of headwinds, and your clients are facing challenges about buyouts, new people that you know are retiring. I mean, there's 100 different things we could talk about in terms of protecting our base, right? So my recommendation is to set up at least quarterly discussions with the leaders and the folks that you know at your current accounts to talk about, hey, how we're doing, but more importantly, as an opportunity for you to plant seeds about what could be happening in the future if we're not careful. And I think everybody wants to say we have great relationships, right? That's always an air quotes moment, right? I have great relationships, but yet I've never shared with my great relationship my fear about what if they leave? Or what if Joe, who's the CFO, leaves? We got a problem, right? So I want you to think about your ability as a professional to plant seeds about challenges, frustrations, issues, fears, worries, doubts, concerns before they become an issue is your fastest path to developing a quality relationship. I mean, we're all physicians, right? And so what physician would we want that wouldn't bring up an issue? We want to be those kinds of professionals that have the guts and the courage to bring that up, to get there before they do, right? So my question there for all of you in terms of keep, if you're writing a note, is who in my list of clients right now, is there a risk? And maybe there's a risk with all of them. And maybe we could say that there's challenge there with every single one of them. But I'd like you to write down the name right now of one in your list, you know, your accounts, that there's something there that if I don't get on the table now, Q4, before next year, we may have an issue. whether it's a budget issue, it's a payment issue, it's a people issue, it's a potential competitions getting in there situation. I want you to have the guts and the courage 5 seconds at a time to get that conversation brewing now in Q4 before it presents itself in 2026. All right, let's talk about attain, winning the right kinds of new business. Attain is all about net new, brand new logos. And I know that there's some heads nodding when I said earlier that many people have come to the realization that we're too focused on our existing relationships and not focused enough on attain, net new. I mean, the runway runs out very quickly when we focus only on existing accounts. We have to add net new business to the pipeline. But my guess, just like when you started down this path in the Sandler methodology and the Sandler playbook, I tell everybody, leaders and individuals, that you're going to look at your people very differently. As we go down this path together to building common system, common way, common approach, common methodology, you're going to look at your people very differently. And you're also going to look at your accounts very differently. Who you were doing business with 10 years ago is most not likely not who you're doing business with now. So if you haven't had the opportunity to really re-identify what your ideal client profile is, this is the time. This is the time to begin to think about who is it, what industries, what kinds of issues do they have, what kinds of challenges do they need help with, what kinds of partner do they see for a company like us? I mean, do they value partnerships? Do they value companies that have a buttoned up process? Those are the kinds of things that you begin to ask yourself as you go down this path of who is the right fit. I mean, you can't go and find new business unless you know what you're looking for, right? I mean, I guess you could, but ultimately you'd probably say down the road, I don't know if that was the right fit, or I don't know if that was the right customer, or they really worked us hard on a discount and I'm not sure I'm really happy with that because it's not really what I wanted. And I really want you to go after the ideal. And that includes who you should be meeting with. Let's shoot for the highest level decision makers that there are. Why are we playing to the lower level decision makers? I get that it's easier to meet those people, but I want you to have a process and a playbook that says, my process says I need to go meet with the president of the company, or we need to go meet with the VP of automation, or whatever it is, right? Your job is to think about those things and to disqualify faster, group. In addition to, we're not proactively acquiring new business fast enough, we're also not disqualifying fast enough. I'm not hearing enough of, we've decided that this is no longer a fit. I want you to embrace that. That's a mature organization. You've reached maturity as a sales professional and as a sales organization when you can say, this isn't a fit. And that is a smart thing to do. So as you look at your pipeline, your individual accounts, my question to you on the A notes today is, are those A's that I'm going after right now, are those ideal pursuits, and do those fit our company's ideal client profile? And here's the thing, Chris said something about preparation. I cannot double down on this enough. You have got to double, triple, quadruple the amount of time you're preparing for these meetings and these conversations. I think that we need to be preparing not only so much, what we're going to talk about, but here's something to think about. We need to prepare to listen more, group. I heard a statistic the other day that salespeople can only be quiet for 7 seconds at a time. So we need to prepare ourselves to be the discoverer, the listener, the learner, the curious person versus the person who's running around doing all the talking, because people aren't buying. We know when we're doing all the talking. So ideal customer profile, let's go after the right opportunities in 26 and spend less time, group, with the wrong opportunities. Recapture, reconnect Reignite. This is such a huge category. We avoid this one, I think, because of a lot of head trash, frankly. Well, we went down that path 10 years ago. Well, Sarah had that account and she said they're really not that interested. This is where we make a lot of excuses. This is the excuse category. But I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of business in this category that's right there. It's just sitting right there. I mean, if you were to make a sale today, if I were to say to you, look, you've got to make a sale today, where would you go, Haley, on the care categories? I would say go to R and go to E, because there's people in this category right now that are wishing that you would call them. They're wishing that you would get back together. They need your help. So think about in 26, what's our recapture and reconnect strategy? Maybe what's our reshuffling strategy, leaders, to redistribute some of the accounts that we've had under certain people for a lengthy amount of time. When you do that and you have the opportunity to reshuffle some accounts, you learn some new things. New people add new interests, add new conversation, add new opportunities. So let's face our fears here and get rid of all that excuse. That's just head trash. It's not real, but it's what we've told ourselves. And so that's what prevents us from taking action, right? So here's the thing. Find somebody in your network, write it down on the R, your list. R, who should I be reconnecting with that I haven't seen in a long time or I haven't heard from? That's easy. Put that on the list and go make a call. Don't wait until January. Don't put this off until 2026. You've got 4 or 5 weeks. I'm sure everybody on this call could come up with 2 or 3 people in their recapture bucket that they should hear from, right? So let's think about that and then say to them, hey, we haven't talked in a while. Hey, when can we get a meeting? Don't overthink it, right? And let's get the conversation going. That's the real win. Actual win is you reaching out and having the courage to reconnect with somebody that you haven't seen in a long time, right? And maybe you share with them your ideal customer profile. How about that? You can do 2 things at one time. And then E, expand. Huge topic, huge, right? Expansion is not about just selling additional services, although that's part of it. But I want you to think about who in my network, who in my client mix have I not talked to? Have I never met? One of the behaviors that one of my clients right now is working on, and they're tracking it consistently, and that's, their key performance indicator that's leading to results, is how many new people have I met? And it doesn't mean just new people out in the world. It's new people at existing accounts. So let's think about how many net new people am I meeting at my existing accounts, and what am I doing with my champions to help them help me be successful in those accounts? And when was the last time within my existing accounts I said the very basic question of, hey, what else could we be doing to support you? In other worlds like yourself, these are the 2 or 3 challenges that they're facing. I don't know if you have any of those challenges. I have no idea if we're the right fit, but let me share those with you and let's figure out a way to get a conversation started. That's as simple as that. So let's find ways in 26 to plant seeds with our current accounts, to ask for referrals and introductions to net new people within those existing accounts, and find ways to help them. The worst thing you can do, and you all have one, is an account that's buying things from you, okay, but they're also buying services that you sell from someone else, your competition. That's horrible. And that's because we didn't either have the courage, the guts, we made an excuse, we did something, we just didn't do it, right? We didn't bring the conversation up. So I want us to be bold about expansion. And for those of you that have champions, let's figure out a way to use our champions and leverage those people inside our current accounts to help us sell more business. Those people that you rely on consistently, they need to be the people that you ask for help more frequently. Asking for help is a really good thing. So E, expand. What's our strategy to expand these 5 accounts? Leaders, put that up on the board. What's our strategy to expand these accounts? And individuals, all of you personally, what's your strategy, all right, to do that? Now, you saw it on the last slide, but our job is to be professionals. And being a professional is having some strategy behind what we're there to do. Being a vendor is just sort of like going out and doing random stuff. All right. And you're all on this call professionals. So let's act like it, group. Our job is to find people and qualify those conversations and disqualify those that aren't a fit early on. And no doesn't have to be forever, just so you know. And you've heard that theme all day today. All right. But what we also have to be is realistic. And we have to be realistic about the choices that we make. And are we making the right choices? Are we making the right investment, time, energy, resources, our own? We talk about that from the client perspective or from the buyer perspective. But are you, when you think about your time, we have limited time, everybody. You know that. That's the first thing you tell me. I'd sell more if I had more time, right? It's always about time. But I'm guessing there's things you're doing right now that are a complete waste of time. And I go back to what I said at the beginning. Are you going to the gym and like lifting a couple weights and walking around and walking on the treadmill? I mean, maybe, but maybe 3 hours in the gym walking around doing a bunch of random stuff, you didn't even do that. So what am I doing now that's a waste of time? All right. And what am I doing now that I could increase the return on time invested? I'm going to see a current client, keep, but I'm also planting seeds about meeting new people. I can do two things at once. And I recommend, and I could say, I asked this question earlier to somebody, can you do two things at once? And somebody said no. I think you can. And I think you can do all four of those care categories: keep, attain, recapture, and expand, all in one conversation. And then ask yourself all over and over and over, what evidence do I have that this deal is real? So in 2026, don't wait. Don't wait. If you want to achieve your own personal and professional goals, again, I don't know what those are. And maybe you don't know what those are. And if you don't, start there. What is it that you want to achieve? Is it a new promotion, new job, second home, renovating your kitchen? I don't care. Paying off college tuitions. Think about what is it that's meaningful for you. It's got to be something that's meaningful enough that would cause you to do something different with your choices that you make. Your goals have to be so clear and so meaningful that those 35,000 decisions that you make per day, you're willing to make different ones. Build your own care account map, right? Build your own plan so that you can say, when someone says to you, hey, how do you know you had a successful day, week, or month in selling, in sales? When somebody asks you, leaders, how do I know my people had a successful day? You can clearly say that. And then set clear expectations for your clients, for yourself, and for your people. Accountability is a really good thing. Embrace that, because your ability to have clear expectations all around of yourself, your teams, your people is what creates this professional environment for us to achieve success in a faster way, which is what I know we're all concerned about. All right, so here's a couple of takeaways. Choose one account in any one of those quadrants, KARE, and set your next steps for yourself, for your leader. And here's the other piece of that is pre-call plan and debrief those calls. I don't think we're debriefing enough. I don't think we're preparing enough, but we're definitely not debriefing enough. So adding those two things into your regimen, being prepared, and then also spending enough time really thinking about, how did that conversation go? Did that lead me somewhere? What's the next appropriate next action? And as you think about your accounts and your account strategy, I would also recommend you give some thought to, how am I spending my time with my A's, B's, and C's accounts? You have A accounts. They're your best accounts. They may not pay you the best money. You have to define what A is for you, what B is for you, and find ways to get rid of the C's. But here's my fear. We're spending too much time with C accounts thinking that they're A's. So as you segment yourself in 2026, I really want you to give some attention to your behavior. And it's really only up to you. Leaders, help your people with this. Help your people think about, how do I behave in a more effective way that can help me achieve my goals much faster? So let's put care into action. Let's not wait. And any of those conversations that are brewing right now that you're saying, you know what, I got 4 or 5 weeks left of 2026, 2025 rather, how do I plant some seeds. How do I get the right conversations going now? And how do I set myself up for success in 26? Let's go crush it, group. I know we can.